This is HRTV Rewind, taking a look back at the racing week.
Joanne and Brad, I think the latest is that I think, and I could be wrong, it could be the fountain in back of us, but I think it is sprinkling just a little bit here. They've been calling for rain actually for 2 days, and if this is what we get, I'll be very happy.
You know, Kate, I can confirm that. I'm the first to find out about the rain, so I feel it, and it's starting to drizzle a little bit, but the weather can be volatile here, so we'll find out later on if it hangs around or not. We've lost one, though, and that was disappointing. Algorithm's not running because of that pop splint.
Yeah, it started raining early on Todd Pletcher's shed row over at Palm Meadows. The word coming from their camp, as Joanne alluded to. Now, want to clarify, in terms of the seriousness of the popped splint, it's not life-threatening. It is a common injury that you see from time to time in all kinds of equine athletes. But how serious it is in terms of Algorithm's career and what it means for the Kentucky Derby can't be assessed yet. Todd Pletcher telling me earlier this morning that it'll be a couple days, he thinks, before he can really say how serious it is.
That's the whole thing with splints. You never know. They could be just a few days. It could be 2 to 3 months. You just don't know how serious it is. They'll have to look at it in a couple of days, maybe even x-ray it, cool it out, and then we'll figure out just what the game plan is going to be. But it's not good news. This was a key prep for Algorithms, as it is for Discreet Dancer and Union Rags. You miss a key prep like this 2 months out, it's not something that you really want to see happen, and it's happening.
An update on Algorithms.
Well, he just yesterday we noticed a little filling in the splint area of his right front. You know, we were hoping maybe he just banged himself or wrapped himself. He seemed to train okay yesterday, but not 100%. We worked on it topically overnight. Went ahead and trained him a little bit this morning. He wasn't himself. So we'll take a few days to cool it out and kind of assess where we are.
Is the Derby anything that's being considered at this point, or will it take a couple days before you even know that?
I think it's premature to make any judgments just yet. You know, we need to get to the bottom of it and see what we can do with it.
Well, when we first got him, he worked good here in the 2-year-old in training center, and I saw him as a yearling at Saratoga also. And but when he came here, he worked well, and when we got him back to the farm, he just did everything like you'd want a nice horse to do. Everything we've asked him, he did. He's big, he's strong, good looking, he's fast. I mean, I don't know what he doesn't have, and he showed that from the start.
Union Rags, just a 2-year-old frolicking in the mud.
I think he was a little ahead of Barbaro. As a 2-year-old, Barbaro wasn't that mature, that young. It took us a while to get him to the races. Barbaro's first race was in October. His first race was in July. I think the only difference was Barbaro mentally wasn't ready for that, where this horse was.
Union Rags, a 5-length winner on the Champagne Stakes.
Compared to Barbaro this time of year, I think they're similar. Barbaro didn't get a break because Barbaro started later. But I think right now at this point, I think they're sort of similar because they're both big and strong. Barbaro had some experience behind him. He had 3 races in Florida now. This horse has more experience under his belt than Barbaro did, but I think they're pretty similar right now.
And it is all Barbaro in a sublime performance. News Pending is third, and they're into the stretch, and it's Union Rags. Union Rags to the 8th pole, pulling away. And then it's News Pending, Discreet Dancer, followed by Neck and Neck, coming to the wire. Oh, what a comeback! Union Rags by 4 on the wire.
From the start, walk me through the race, what you were seeing, what you were feeling as it went on.
I just spoke with Julian, and I just said break, and wherever he's comfortable, you let him stay. And he came back, he said he did what I asked him to do. When I said go, he said okay.
You've been quietly confident about this colt every step of the way, but were you at all surprised by how easily he seemed to just go up, make the lead, and draw in from there?
You know, he's such a smart horse, and he does everything. He's so easy on himself for such a big horse, and you never know after a 4 months rest, do you have the horse fit enough? Did you do this? Did you do it off this? You always go through 51 questions, but I guess we did it right this time.
Well, a day of threatening rain, sensational performances, and in the end, a monster upset in the Devona Dale Stakes. Jeff, we start looking back at the Sabin. This was the return of Royal Delta, last year's Breeders' Cup Ladies Classic champion. She ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Awesome Maria defended her title and then some.
Awesome Maria coming back off the layoff. We know how well she ran here last year. She was undefeated on this track, undefeated in 2011, and she came back at least as good and maybe even better. Complete demolition. It was just breathtaking to watch, and she's back and then some.
I know it's early. It's mid to late February, but is it too early to proclaim Awesome Maria as one of the best, if not the best mare in the country? Second question, does Bill Mott go on to Dubai with Royal Delta?
Well, I think he will with Royal Delta. I think he got out of the race what he was thinking that he was going to get out of it. Awesome Maria, I thought she was the best filly mare last year before she got hurt. So I'm not changing my tune now. I mean, I don't know anybody out there that can touch her except for Havre de Grace, and I hope that these two can eventually hook up. Then we'll find out who really is the best.
She lived up to her name. It was just awesome.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, she broke a little awkwardly from the gate, but it worked out good because we wanted to let those two horses go and try to sit and hopefully try to get the jump on the other horse, and it worked out perfect. As soon as it got to the back stretch, I kind of gave her the head, and she got in a very comfortable position in the back stretch and a very comfortable rhythm, and just kind of let it do her own thing, and from then on, asked it to go down the quarter boy, and she responded.
And of course, we had the upset with the Brazilian in the Very One Stakes. A big afternoon for jockey Joe Bravo.
Yeah, I mean, that came out of nowhere here to win, although she was a Brazilian bred who did a lot of good racing in South Africa. But her form, I didn't know whether she was good enough to win today. She was. A little late, though, but she was very impressive.
Kieran, what were you thinking when you saw them post a 3/4 mile time?
Well, she was always traveling well, and I thought the difference in us winning was Joe Bravo's ride. He rode a great race, and he saved ground the whole way, and she responded well when asked.
And as we mentioned, the blowout horse, Yara, at odds of 60-1, running down the favorite Grace Hall in the Grade 2 Devona Dale.
First time around 2 turns, Florida bred. She'd won a good stake at Calder a couple of runs back. Got beat 22 lengths in the slop last time. Obviously, we know she doesn't like what track. She ran very well today. I wasn't expecting it, but give it up to her. She earned it.
She broke so well. Was the plan always to just go to the front?
I think that was the key of the race, to get the good break. She took a good break, and as soon as she got on the lead, I know she was going to be tough all the way.
A lot was made of the inside part of the racetrack, maybe a little dull today at Gulfstream. Maybe that cost Grace Hall a little bit.
Might have hurt. That was an observation that was made around here, that maybe the rail a little deep today. Who knows? Maybe that was the reason, or maybe Grace Hall was a little short. We'll find out next time.
And they're off in a Kentucky Derby. On the outside, Thunder Gulch with the white blinkers, and Gary Stevens aboard has something to say about this Derby as they turn for home. A little more than a quarter of a mile to go. Down the stretch they come in the Derby, and here's the winner. It's Thunder Gulch. Lucas wins it with the lesser of the 3 horses he trained. How about that? Thunder Gulch wins it.
Thunder's a lovely horse to be around. He's very smart. He's a gentle, kind horse. No badness in him at all. All the young lads that start off here as grooms, they all start looking after Thunder, and he's just a really nice horse to be around. He's the oldest stallion we have here, yes. For his age, he looks very well. He's a very simple horse to deal with, nice to be around. He's no problem with any of the other stallions. He's not as high-strung as some of the others. Maybe he's mellowed a little bit with age, but he was always a very quiet horse. Well, Thunder's day-to-day life starts at about 6:30 in the morning. He gets turned out in the morning, first thing, out in his paddock, as do the rest of the stallions here. You know, the Kentucky Derby is probably obviously the premier race for 3-year-olds, and to have 2 of them here at Ashford like we do, in Thunder Gulch and Fusaichi Pegasus, it's great for the farm, and you know, coming to work every day it's really a part of history, really.
And here's the winner. It's Thunder Gulch.
You rode Talkin' Man, the highly regarded Canadian, in 1995.
What a mistake that was. I had to call on Thunder Gulch. I had to beg Gary Stevens to come back from Japan to ride Thunder Gulch, actually. True story, you can ask him. I made him come back. He got a lifetime breeding right to him. He gave me one, actually. And that's how great both trainers, Roger Adfield and Lucas, were to me. They waited up until that point for me to make my choice. And then I remember afterwards, Wayne said, well, who am I going to get? I said, well, about Gary. He won I think it was a Rimson on him when he was 2. He said, I already called him. He didn't coming back from, I think it was in Japan or Hong Kong, wherever he's at. I said, well, let me talk to him. And I talked to Ron Anderson at the time, who had his book, and he had just came back from there. And we called him up. We were at Pepper's. I flew in town to ride a race. True story. We were over at Pepper's across the street. And I called him up and literally had to beg him to come back. I said, look, I'm not saying he's going to win, but he will light the board. I guarantee you. And sure enough, we got him to come back. And I remember heading for home. I just hit the front. I got through on the filly that Nakatani was on. All of a sudden, someone just flew by me, and I saw this big orange dot, Tabor's colors, you know. I said, oh, God. But I was happy for Gary.
The assist for Mike Smith, the sales pitch that got Gary to ride Thunder Gulch.
Yeah.
You're watching HRTV Rewind with a week of racing to recap.
Mr. Bowling on the wire. Mark Valesky scores of Iranian talent. On the outside, Adina's chance. Hero of order. A Ford and a photo finish with Tismo.
Inside of him is Optimizer.
At the inside is Z Dagger.
Springboard winner, Ted's Folly.
El Padrino will win.
Shared property. Tis an expense. Scraping paint to get it on the wire. Well, the day has come to a close, which was the Louisiana Derby Premier Day. Katie, we saw exciting finishes, and the Risen Star, no exception. A jockey's objection, but the stand, no change, and I think the stewards got it right.
Yeah, if you happen to miss the replay, it really worked out well for El Padrino. That was the Todd Pletcher trainee. Came in a little bit into Mark Valesky, but was able to catch that horse, who also was very impressive, stretching out for the first time for the Larry Jones stable. But El Padrino, in the end, was victorious in the big event of the day, the Risen Star Stakes.
You know, I thought, it's not a big deal. As soon as past the wire, we both horses before the wire, we rode tie, but we never have a big contact. And I think it was a good race, a very exciting race.
Yeah, we were excited. He kind of tends to wait on horses, and he was just kind of, you could see he was just kind of waiting. He kind of, pushed through in the stretch. But the other horse ran a huge race. You got to give him credit too.
Yeah, again, the one ran a great race coming down the stretch. I knew we had a shot. That long stretch, obviously we needed every bit of it, and I'm glad it stood up, and I'm thrilled.
Of course, the Rachel Alexandra, we had a bit of an upset with summer applause. Disappointing effort for the Larry Jones trainee, but looks like the little lady didn't like the dirt hitting her in the face.
You know, I certainly still believe you can. Maybe this is a change of tactics to gear her up for maybe another big race down the line. But the big winner in the 3-year-old filly stakes race, Rachel Alexandra, was summer applause for Brett Calhoun's stable. Another impressive win earlier on today. And a few other stars to name on Oscars weekend. We had Smart Big, who won the Fairgrounds handicap, going 9 furlongs on the grass. Shipped well here. Last time we saw this horse was last September, but really prevailed for the Grand Motion stable with Edgar Prado aboard.
And congratulations, Jimen, for Augustin Stables also with the victory. We also saw the return of Nero, making the 2012 debut for Zayed Stables and Steve Asmussen, and no surprise they didn't disappoint as the odds-on favorite.
Absolutely not. The first start of the year really showed that he's just a classy horse. Nero for Steve Asmussen's stable, and it looks like we're going to see this one hopefully in the Fairgrounds handicap coming up in the next month at the Fairgrounds.
Well, there was plenty of speed in the race, even though there was just 6 runners, and he settled nicely. He broke fairly sharply today, settled nicely. He'd run a good race here last year in the Louisiana Derby, and just glad to see him in the winner's circle and having him back.
At this point, has a definitive plan been laid out for the rest of the year?
Well, I think that, running him today was pretty important to plan on running him back in the New Orleans handicap here and then see where it takes us.
That's going to do it for us, for everybody here at Fairgrounds. Have yourself a great night, and we send it back to our LA studios.
Here's that El Padrino t-shirt I was talking about for Let's Go Stable. Fantastic. El Padrino means Godfather. It's for sale on Overlay Apparel. We found this on Twitter, so if Overlay Apparel is watching, I wear large. What size you wear?
I wear small.
Small and large. Just send us a box. Everybody at HRTV will wear them if this horse goes on.
Yeah, and we'll
the headliner of the Risen Star.
The price could go up or down, judging on the Risen Star.
Pletcher's his consigliere.
All the ingredients were in place for a good story. A good-looking son of Secretariat who had won the Louisiana Derby, his colorful Cajun connections, and a very unlikely rooting section. Risen Star and his quirky entourage were the talk of the 1988 Triple Crown. Co-owner Ronnie Lamarck was a car dealership owner with a passion for singing.
When Star wins it here, our star will be Horse of the Year.
Risen Star's trainer and Lamarck's partner, Louis Russell, didn't let Kentucky Derby tradition get in the way of comfort. And the colt's most devout fans, the little sisters of the poor, prayed for Risen Star.
Risen Star has been our favorite horse.
Divine intervention, however, couldn't help him in the Kentucky Derby. After a wide trip under Eddie Delahousse, Risen Star could only manage a fast-closing third under the winning filly, winning colors.
Wire to wire with Gary Stevens in the iron.
But the stars were aligned at Pimlico.
The weather changed, the sun came out, the wind cleaned up the track real good.
After deliberating on race day whether to run Risen Star because of a missed work and concern about a wet track, Russell ultimately sent the colt to the starting gate in the Preakness.
Into the final quarter mile, Risen Star has the lead.
Risen Star became the first and only son of Secretariat to capture a Triple Crown race. There was a hiccup in the lead-up to the Belmont Stakes. Risen Star strained his right front ankle and missed training time. Russell was forced to work the colt the day before the mile-and-a-half Belmont. And much to the trainer's dismay, Risen Star blazed 3 furlongs in 33 seconds. If anything, that put Risen Star on his toes.
Past the 8th pole, Risen Star going away. He looks like his daddy at this point.
He and Delahousse rolled to a 14 3/4 length victory, the largest margin since his sire 15 years earlier.
Risen Star takes the Belmont just like his daddy Secretariat did.
He is the pride of New Orleans and Louisiana.
You should have seen the shot we had of the little sisters jumping up and down after the race.
Great. Risen Star salutes New York, New York.
The Belmont win did come at a price. A career-ending injury in the race meant early retirement for Risen Star. After several years at stud, Risen Star suffered a fatal case of colic and died on the exact day he had won the Louisiana Derby 10 years earlier.
You're watching HRTV Rewind.
Spring Hill Farm has the lead as they come down to the wire. Another milestone in a brilliant training career. 3,000 for Todd Pletcher.
You don't get many chances to kind of reflect in this business, but when you hit a milestone like that, it kind of makes you appreciate all of them.
Here comes Virtuously. Here comes Javier to get his 3,000th win.
Hammering Buckeye is hanging in pretty tough, though. It's Father Mud, though. Trainer Dale Capuano, career win, 3,000.
We've been fortunate over the years to have terrific clients, and the staff that I've worked with has been unbelievable. And without them, it wouldn't be possible. And then the horses themselves. I mean, I've been fortunate to have horses that were capable of winning, that many races. And when you put it all together, that's how we accomplished what we accomplished.
We get to see two of the best sprinters in the world here on Saturday in the San Carlos going 7/8. The much-anticipated 2012 debut of Breeders' Cup Sprint Champ, Eclipse Award-winning sprinter Amazombi for Bill Spar. But he's going to have his hands full, as is everybody else, catching the Factor. It looks like he ought to be able to clear here. The break is going to be key, but the Factor is going to take some beating. He's been training out of his mind at Hollywood Park, but Amazombi's been doing super here at Santa Anita. It is 7/8, but if the Factor shakes loose early, it just could be shame on him.
At the top of the lane, the Factor now comes under a ride too. Amazombi down the centre, Cannonide running a huge one, and here's Sway Away from last running on as well. The Factor's holding on. The Factor, Sway Away's finishing powerfully in the centre of the track. Sway Away coming, the Factor hanging on. The Factor digs deep and finds more. The Factor has won it. And now Javine going to try to sneak through down at the rail, running on late as Remet. They come for home now, and it's Misdirection, the leader. Javine didn't get through down there, has to switch out and try to chase, but Misdirection finds more, and Misdirection just plain too classy for them. Misdirection and Mike Smith win it easy.
You talked about as you're getting older, you've learned new things. I remember the first time I got to see you. You and I, we've gotten together on some horses in the past, and we've been very, very fortunate together. To me, you were always somebody that was fantastic out of the gate, strong rider. Over the last few years, personally, I've seen you become so versatile in everything you're doing.
Well, pretty much people used to say that I was speed riding, and that bothers me. Because, if you ride a speed horse, what am I supposed to do? Take him back to last and make one run? Yeah. I'm going to ride my horse according to what they run. I study, believe me. I hate to say this, but I study the racing form, the PPs, everything more than the Bible. I study that thing when they come out. I look at the computer. I study every single horse that I ride in my competition. I do it all the time. When he called me, I'm in the computer while looking at the races. I got the PPs. Now the entries, I already had the PP for Tuesday. I already study all those 3 horses that I ride Tuesday, So I do my homework at home.
Nick, we're with Eddie Olczyk here, and Eddie was just relating the story, and we just showed the picture when he brought the cup out to the racetrack and let go for Gin Imbibe. You guys must have really enjoyed that.
Oh, that was an amazing thrill. I was thinking, Toby Keith's got that great record, the Red Solo Cup. We need the Silver Cup. We got to have the big Silver Cup, drink out of the big Silver Cup, because we had a good time. And Eddie, like I could say, 20 years it goes by. It's almost 20 years. I know one thing. He's a class guy, and he never changes. And he talked about an ambassador for our sport. I wish I had him. Wish I could just put him right on top with the great people of our sport, because there's nobody does it better. He really represents our sport terrifically.
That's all for Rewind this week. Here's a look at what's coming up next week on HRTV.
Aaron Vercruyze, he's standing by. Zoe mentioned chopped to bits. That was what Mandela was this morning. I guess that means happy. You ever been chopped to bits? I'm assuming that Aaron's saying nothing but great things about you and I, Gary, right now.
Now I'm going to send you viewers outside to Scott Hazelton. And Scott,
Exactly.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
On, off. Just so you know, for tomorrow or whenever you're on next week. Okay.
I was just trying to get the guys inside.